Welcome to a Road Less Traveled podcast, virtual edition. I'm your host, Hilary Haron, and today we have with us entrepreneurial extraordinaire, Bridget Fitzpatrick. And today we're going to discuss her triumphs and tribulations in the automotive and media industries. So Bridget, I didn't know this until I was reading what you sent over, but you're kind of an entrepreneur extraordinaire. And you have co-founded 2 media companies. What drove you to make that decision?
The crazy decision to start the business. I love this question. So my husband and I started the business in 2012. He is a former car dealer. And after he was a car dealer, he ran a marketing company. And he realized that there really wasn't a media outlet for car dealers to get information on how to run their dealerships better. And so he always talked about creating this media company, and we were together and he would talk about it endlessly. And we would talk about how cool it would be and all of the things that we could do with the company. And finally, one year I got tired of him talking about it. So I bought him the URL, cbtnews.com, for his birthday, and hence CBT News started, and we started it together. So from there, in 2018, we realized we had the studio set up and all of the resources. Our team is running things like a well-oiled machine, and we can't sit still for very long. We get bored very easily, my husband and I both. So it's a crazy thing about us, but we do. And we wanted to start another media company for entrepreneurs and small business owners, and that's America's Small Business Network, which is ASBN.com. So we started that in 2018, and that's been now running for so many years. And then just last year, we opened up a co-working space to kind of go along with that entrepreneur, small business side of things.
That's pretty incredible. I actually have known Jim for a while, but I did not realize that he was a car dealer before.
He was, yeah.
Were you guys together when he was still a car dealer?
No, but I know all about it. I've learned so much in the last 12 years about automotive through being in the business and from him. And wow, what a crazy industry, but a great industry. We love it.
Well, and you've been around it a lot now for however long. And this was actually a question I had slated for later, but I'm going to pull it up now. You've been going to industry events, and you guys are very well connected, and you do an incredible job sharing really important issues with dealers and things that we need to hear about that aren't talked about in like the traditional magazine kind of way. And I'm wondering if you have seen an uptick in women like attending these events, or if you feel like it's kind of falling off.
I feel like I have seen an uptick. I think more women are being more outspoken in the industry. I don't think it's going as fast as I'd like it to, as far as women being hired in the industry and running things in the industry. But I have seen an uptick. And, we both were just at NADA recently, the National Automobile Dealers Association, and their event. I am seeing more of an uptick. I think a lot of companies hopefully are taking note to what we're talking about, and so many other outlets are talking about how there just needs to be more diversity and more women in automotive, and all of the reasons why, and all the reasons that we talk about on CBT is how dealerships can hire more women, retain more women, and attract more women.
And I know that you guys have given a platform to that, and I've been a guest and have really tried to push and usher other women to contact you to talk about whatever they possibly can, because it can feel so isolating. And even at events like NADA with a company that's pretty progressive or trying to be more progressive, trying to include women can be a little bit difficult because there's still kind of an old boys club. How have you found success in navigating kind of that old boys club feel that it can be so prominent sometimes?
That's a great question. Because it wasn't always easy in the beginning. I think I was a little more passive aggressive about things when I felt like I was treated unfairly because I was a woman. But over the years, as I've gotten older, I've learned how not to take it so personal and get upset with these people, but more learning take it as an education for myself, but not only me, but also for them. I think there are a lot of men in the industry that, they just don't know, it was either how they were raised or they're a little bit older, or, not that that's an excuse, but I think that, by CBT and, like I said, other networks, hopefully we're helping them understand what they need to do to attract more women to the industry, but also how to treat them when they're there, because that's been a challenge, as I'm sure you're aware. Yeah.
100% agree. And I think that's like actually a really important topic to talk about, because as we're trying to attract more women to this industry, we know the research itself shows the actual tangible, our financial statements show when you have a woman in leadership, your company does better. When you have a woman in each department, your company does better. It just seems like it's a taboo subject nobody wants to talk about. They're not comfortable talking about it, even though you have to talk about it to make it better. Have you guys facilitated conversations like that for dealers?
We have many. We've had many, like you said, we've had you on, but other women as well, to talk about all of these issues. We're about to host a show, Women in Automotive. That's the working title right now, but where we will host a show that's specific to this issue, to help dealers understand and help attract more women. And like we've been saying, to not only get them in the dealerships and leadership roles, management roles, but then keep them there, and then have them hire other women, have the men working in dealerships now, hire women.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that came up for us regularly, I was a service advisor for a little while, and women were much more comfortable talking to a woman in the service drive because they didn't feel like I was talking down to them, or I'm not a big hun person anyway, but there was no potential of being called a hun. And a lot of times we're able to kind of speak the same language, the same way that men do, the same way that any group does, right? What do you think would be something that dealers could practically do that would help retain women, or even things that they could do to help educate themselves to keep them around?
That's a great question. I think that there's the obvious things, like be flexible with the hours, and the paternity leave and maternity leave for both men and women, maybe strengthen that a little bit. But also, this might be a little bit radical, but I think tying some kind of compensation to hiring women, and maybe have some kind of quota where you have to have this percentage of women on your leadership team and in your dealership. Mm-hmm. And then with that, tie some money to that. I think that might be more motivating and make them sit up straight and understand the reality and the importance of hiring women. I think that all of those things, but really education as well. There's a lot of groups out there that they can help women and men understand the importance and understand why. We've talked about the buying power that women have. So the majority of the customers are women. And like you just talked about in the service drive, there's a comfortability there. There's a trust factor. I think when women see other women in the dealership, if I were going into a dealership to apply for a job, I would want to see other women. And if I didn't, I would be a little bit uncomfortable. If, they say, if you can see it, you can be it. So I think that's so important, and especially in leadership.
Especially with our workforce being so, we're a lot more progressive socially, typically. Yeah. With the meat of the workforce now. I think that's a very valid point. I'm going to segue or kind of take a left turn actually into the media world. Some statistics that I recently read said that the percentage of women in leadership roles in media has been declining. Have you observed that? And do you have some insight on why that might be?
I feel like I've been in my own little bubble, but I have observed it just basically watching the news and things. There's been so much crazy, the Me Too and harassment in media and things like that. That may have been a driver to less women in leadership roles in media. But to be honest with you, I mean, the majority of media leadership is men as it is. So I haven't really seen it firsthand, but definitely what I've witnessed in the news and from hearing these stories of terrible things happening in media companies. I won't mention any on here, but we all know who they are. So I think that might have something to do with it.
Mm-hmm. I think it kind of blows me away. Again, just back to like to the statistics, to the studies. Like we know that it makes your company more profitable.
Yeah.
Why not educate yourself a little bit better? Are there resources that you have seen? I mean, so something that I would share with people is CBT. You guys are very inclusive. Are there other resources outside of you guys that you think would be a good place for women to go to see more people who look like them in the business they want to be in?
Yeah, there's a few publications that kind of like CBT that cater to journalists, and but really, I think the best way is really to watch. Local news is one thing, but really the national outlets and see what they're doing. I have noticed a nice that the diversity issue is definitely one to talk about as well, and that is improving on the media side. Whether it's local all the way to national, which is great. But there aren't, I mean, good point that there isn't really one local place where I could go to find all the information I need on media, such as the CBT news. Maybe we'll start that one next. We did the small business, we did, but no, not that I know of.
Okay, all right. And is that something that you guys like? Do you have a consulting side of your business? Is that something that you guys would ever be interested in talking to dealers about, or no?
No, it's amazing how many. Yeah, we get a lot of inquiries for media training. People think that because we do it, we can train to it, and we could, but that's just not our core business. So we don't really want to get into that. We do have a resource that we refer people to and she's helped many people from some of the largest vendors in automotive down to the smallest, and she's helped a lot of people that you see on our show every day. She's doing a great job. She comes from media. Her name's Lynn Smith. You may have seen her on CNN and HLN, but she now has a company that is in media training, and she's been doing a great job for our clients that we've referred her to her.
That's great to know. That's great information to share.
Yes.
So you are, running two media companies, you have family, husband, you have a personal life. This is the question that we always get that we hate so much. How do you do it all? How do you manage it? What's integral to your management of it? Because you do it so well.
Thank you. It's definitely, it takes work. As you know, I think that there's always one level of my life that's going to be sacrificing when I'm focusing more on the other, whether it be business, my personal life is going to suffer a little bit, or whether I'm, doing more on the personal side, or, dealing with an aging father who's not doing well, then sometimes the business might suffer a little bit. So the balancing act of it all is definitely a day by day work in progress. And I don't think there's a formula to it, so to speak. I think that it's just, I tend to try to balance it as best I can, but something's always going to sacrifice a little while I'm working on the other, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it sounds like you make time to give each thing attention. Like you're intentional. It sounds like you're intentional about it.
For sure. We can get a lot done. I work with my husband, so we can get a lot done on the car ride into work, on the car ride from home from work. So our hours are extended. Then also we have the comfortability of, if we're in the kitchen cooking dinner, we can start talking about work. I think that's super helpful and allows us to kind of, we're always working on work, but then we also have 6 grandkids and 5 kids. So we want to make sure we take time for them as well. So weekends, we really do set aside for personal and for the kids and grandkids.
Well, thank you for mentioning the kids and the grandkids, because that's where I was going next. Do they get, I mean, I'm from a family business and I don't know if any of your kids work with you guys or not.
They
But,
do.
oh, okay. Okay. That's really cool.
It is.
But that's a whole nother set of challenges. I mean, I can say
Oh
that
yeah.
like we've gotten up from dinner and my husband's been like, I just don't want to go because you guys are just going to talk about business. And I'm not in the mood. Do you guys run into
I
that?
feel for him. Yes, I do. And I totally get it because we have so Jim's son John runs the marketing company that Jim started years ago. So that's really separate though from CBT.
Mhm.
But we have two sons that are in CBT with us, my son and then my stepson, another son of Jim's.
Okay.
So it does have its challenges, but we've learned so much over the years how to really manage them as our kids as well as our employees.
Mhm.
And I think that developing a respect on both ends has been super helpful. And they're both super respectful of Jim and I, and we are of them and their time, and we try not to take advantage of them, and they try not to take advantage of us, if that makes sense. But it comes with its challenges, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. It really is more rewarding than anything else.
That's amazing. I love working with my dad. So
Yeah,
well, I work with my mom too. I love working with my mom, but we were never like in an office together.
Okay, great.
How are your grandbabies? Like, do your kids bring them to the set, or do they bring them with you guys?
They do.
You sometimes tail on family vacations to work trips.
They do. It's so cute.
That.
They've brought the kids in. I know, it's so fun. We love it. They brought the grandkids in, and we put them behind the desk and put a green screen behind them and had fun with that. So they love it. And then now we're also on Roku and Apple TV, so they have downloaded the apps on all their TVs, and so the kids will watch and say, "Oh, look, there's Gigi and Granddad on TV." So they're having fun with it. Yeah, I know.
And then you're like larger than life to them, right? Like first of all, Grandma or Gigi, sorry, you're on a pedestal.
That's okay.
But now you're like on TV and they're like, what? That's
really yeah. I'm wrapped around their fingers, all of them.
I love it. I love it. You guys have a big family. Do you do like big holidays?
We do. And I love it. I was one of 3 girls, and I always wanted a large family. I wanted 4 kids my whole life. I ended up having 1 biological child, and that's great. But I married someone that had 4. So huge Thanksgiving dinners, which I love, and what I always dreamed of as even a little girl. It's what I always wanted, a huge family around the Thanksgiving table. And for the most part, we do get to do that. Even if it's not Thanksgiving, we'll make it Christmas, or sometimes we have to flip flop years because of the in-laws on the other sides. But we always do. Jim and I, our birthdays are close together, so we're trying to make a tradition of getting everybody together for our birthday, which is in January. So we did that this past month, and it's just fun getting them all together.
Happy belated birthdays!
Thank you.
How nice to have Vegas right around your birthday.
There's been more times than not when it's on my birthday. It's January 23rd. Next year it starts on my birthday. So I've spent a lot of birthdays at NADA.
That's fantastic. And also,
I know.
Next year in New Orleans is going to be wild. You're going to have
It is. Yeah. So I'll try to have some fun while I'm out there too, which I always do anyway. So
it sounds to me, or appears to me, and sounds to me like you are intentional about your life and your business and your family. Did you kind of come up in any of the industries with a mentor, or was this was media or the car business, was some of that your intention when you were young? The plans we all make that fall apart.
Right.
What was kind of that's a dual question. Did you have any very significant mentors, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
Both great questions. I wanted to be something that had to do with animals, but I also wanted to be an attorney, which are two opposite things. But none of that, my path didn't lead either of those ways. So no, I was in business development for a Fortune 500 company before we started CBT. And that kind of helped me on the sales and marketing side, which was great. But it's funny, on the media side, we were looking for a female anchor and a male anchor. And we did auditions when we were starting the company and really trying to figure it out. We found the male and we were just looking for we had several local news people come in and other people that were in media come in and audition. And as they were doing it, I said to Jim, I said, I think I might be able to do this. Because a lot of times it was a scheduling conflict and we needed somebody to be there all the time. And so it was rough in the beginning, but I got in there and Jim always says, no, it was good. You were great from the beginning. But no, so I was the first anchor. And for 10 years, I did that until recently I kind of turned it over to Cheyenne Malone, who is now doing the newscast on CBT News. But for a long time, it was me doing it. And I went to the school of Google for that, really. I learned really everything from watching myself and saying, oh, I want to make sure I don't do that the next time I'm on air. I don't want to ask that question again, but I really did. It was just grassroots, get in there and do it, dive head first. And that's how I learned how to do it.
Oh, that's really cool. Sometimes, well, in my opinion, I think that might be the best way, because then you can look back at your own work and you're just becoming a better version of yourself, right?
Yeah. Good way to look at it.
Did you have any significant mentors going through or in your life?
I would say that growing up, and thank you for bringing that back around. I didn't answer your question. I would say probably my mom, and it was more of a, she showed me instead of told me. We didn't sit down and have long discussions about, what to do with your life, but she was a very hard worker. She had 3 girls to take care of, and she was a single mom for a very long time. And I watched her. She just worked. She did whatever she had to do. She worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs to make sure that her 3 girls were okay. And she didn't stop. So watching her, I think, helped me develop the work ethic and also the understanding of you do whatever it takes to get what you want, really. And then on the automotive side, Jim's been huge. He's taught me everything on the automotive side because, as you know, there's a lot of things that are different in automotive, whether it be the language that's used and things like that. And it's a different beast, but it's a fun one.
There's a lot of special lingo.
Yes, the special lingo was was a lot to learn, but no, he's been great, and he was an entrepreneur before I was, so he's been great there. But I would say my mom first, and then Jim, of course.
That's phenomenal. And do you and Jim, or even just you personally, do you have any mentees? Do you make that a point to, obviously automotive and media can be a little bit of a difficult space for women to navigate. Do you make it a point to try to mentor others?
We do. I feel like we do a little bit of that every day with the content that we provide small business owners as well as the automotive industry. But a lot of times people will come into the studio or we'll be over a Zoom call, kind of like we are now. And we do take the time before or after to discuss anything that they might have questions about, whether it be in media or automotive. So on kind of in micro doses, we don't have any long-term, I would say, people that we're mentoring, but on a daily basis, I hope that we're helping small business owners, entrepreneurs, as well as people that work in the car dealerships.
Well, you're 100% making women feel more seen in the automotive industry. So that is amazing. Can you tell me about a specific moment in your career where you wanted to say, you know what? I know you mentioned earlier that you were a little passive aggressive about it, but do you have a specific story about a time when you were just done? Where somebody did something and then when you came out the other end, you were like, you know what? I'm so proud of myself. I handled that well. This was a growth moment.
I have so many that we could sit here for hours discussing them, but I won't talk about all of them. But I have a couple. One was there was a situation. I was in a boardroom with 4 other men, and I was new to the automotive industry, and we were discussing things. So I was still learning, and I asked a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And there was one person in the room that you probably know his name. I'm not going to say it, but he made me feel this big. Just the way he talked to me, very belittling, and almost telling me that my questions were stupid without saying the word stupid, but he definitely was just not, it was a very uncomfortable situation. But what I like about this story is, my husband always has my back, and he was in the room, but another gentleman stood up and said, she's new to the industry. She's going to have a lot of questions. So if you be a little patient with her, kind of. So it ended up okay. And someone else had my back. But I will say I did learn from that to have my own back and to step up. And if someone is being that way, I can fend for myself now a lot better than I could, 10, 12 years ago. So that was one. And I'll tell you one other quick one that I was doing one of my first interviews, and it was a big name in the industry. And I was really excited about the interview. And we were discussing a book that he had just written. And as I was asking the question about the book, he said, well, you probably wouldn't know anything about that because you probably just read romance novels, right? Well,
Ow.
At the time, I didn't want to screw this interview up, so I was silent. Now, looking back, if that happened today, I would talk about all the business books that I'm reading and kind of try to give them a little. But things like that oh gosh, they were frustrating. As you know, I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of that too. It's so frustrating. It's like, come on, what are you doing? You're, dating yourself. Number one, you're just. It's just not good. So yeah. So now I'm not, I was passive back then about that. I'm not now when things like that happen. I'm a lot more forward, and I try not to care, when women are, speak up or are a little more aggressive with things. They're called a bitch, or they're called bitchy, where men are, oh wow, he was so assertive and he was so strong. And, so we gotta walk that fine line too, where I don't want to come off as a bitch. I don't want to come off as I'm whining. So it's on standing up for yourself, speaking up, but also in a very professional way.
Well, this is kind of separate, but do you feel like those labels have been thrown at normal behaviors because they make other men in particular uncomfortable? Like, okay, that makes me uncomfortable, so I'm going to throw a label at it, but maybe it's not really whining and it's not being bitchy. It is a very normal behavior that has just been labeled that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that. I think that it is a very normal behavior, but somewhere along the line, it got a label of bitchy or whiny. Like I said, if it were a man talking the way we do sometimes, well, like anybody talks, like you said, it's a label. It's normal conversation. So yeah, I do. I think it's been a label that was slapped on at some point by someone.
I agree with that. I agree with that completely. And fighting against labels is hard. And what advice do you have for women in the automotive industry specifically, and then in the media industry specifically?
Don't let those two stories scare you, because that's not the majority. I've had a lot of support from a lot of men in the industry, a lot of women in the industry. There are groups formulated for women, specifically for women of color, in the automotive industry, that are great. The support system that you surround yourself is important. But the advice that I would give them is to learn from my mistake and stand up for yourself. It might be a little uncomfortable at first. Don't be passive aggressive about it. It's the easy way to do it. And I don't think it's the right way. And sometimes the easy way is not the right way. So, that would be my advice for anyone in any industry that's dominated by men, is to, just be strong and stand up when you think you should.
There's definitely a lot of good books out there, and I'll, for future episodes, try to find some to link, because there's a lot of good books where you can even like memorize the phrase, like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to let you be intentionally hurtful. Just
right. Exactly. Right. There could be one phrase that that's going to cover all bases that you feel comfortable saying, and that it's not going to offend anyone too much. So
exactly. Because everyone's fragile. Fragile.
Right. Especially these days, you have to be careful what you say and the words that you use, and you don't want to offend anybody.
It's true, because we're not out there trying to be intentionally hurtful. We're simply
Right.
setting a boundary. And I'm finding that people don't like boundaries and they don't like change.
This is true. Change is
Have you
hard for
guys-
people.
Have you found that change is difficult for you to navigate personally, or do you kind of welcome it? What's your approach to change?
I love this question because I've learned over the years with this one too. It used to be really hard for me to shift gears and try new things or go in another direction with the company. But I have learned to not be too afraid of, because what it is, you're just afraid of the unknown. When you're changing, you want to stay in your comfort zone. So I have learned that change can be good. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but get through it. I read a lot of books, not romance novels, but I do read. And there's one called Changing. What is it called? Sorry, it's Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's got several. I've read 3 of his, but he's a neuroscience professor that talks about, or neuroscientist. He's not a professor, but he talks about this very topic. I'm trying to think of the name of the book. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Great book.
Okay, I like that.
So yeah. So, and it is really about just not being afraid of what you don't know when it comes to change.
That's how you advance, right? You learn new things, and
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the next step. Do you guys have anything exciting coming up? Any exciting
Good
interviews
question.
or fun stuff that you're doing?
We do. The cool thing I'm excited about, we have the new shows that are coming up. We kind of we have a show, Diversity in Automotive, that we sunset for a little while we're getting some other things in order. So that's coming back along with the, like I said, working title, Women in Automotive, where Cheyenne Malone's going to host that. And she's going to talk to women in the industry, leadership roles, but all areas of the dealership. And so that's hopefully going to help out this situation with hiring and retaining and getting women into the industry as well. And we're not only going to do those 2 shows, but like I said, we are now on Roku and Apple TV, so that's really exciting. We're getting that going. So we want to be on all of the screens, so you can see CBT News on your laptop, on your phone, or you can see it at home on your TV too.
Yep, you can watch it anywhere, get it where you can get it, and get
wherever you want to watch, you can watch. Yeah.
I love that. I'm excited to tune in to both of those things. I think that they're both very needed, and I'm super duper excited to see what you guys do with them.
Yeah, thank you. We are excited about that.
So Bridget, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time and your perspective. And I know that I'm going to be tapping you again because I know that we have more stuff.
Anytime. Anytime. This was really fun. I love what you're doing. So keep it up and congrats. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And I don't know how the weather is out there. How is your weather?
Today, 62 and sunny, which for Atlanta is, well, I'll take it.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you again. And I hope you have a wonderful day and happy belated birthday.
Thank you, Hilary. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their stories, wisdom, and breaking down barriers with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Your support means the world to me and helps spread the word about the amazing women paving the road less traveled in male-dominated industries. If you have suggestions for a future guest or topic you'd like me to explore, please reach out on social media. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on your favorite social platform for updates and behind the scenes. Keep pushing boundaries, challenging norms, and lifting each other up.